Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the show. Uncanny Media, of course. It's me, your good buddy Spider. And it's going to be a bit of a somber show. For the most part. I've got a chunk of things to talk about in the beginning. That's going to take up a good portion of the show. And maybe there's going to be some miscellaneous things towards the end. But I'm going to try to get through it. It's going to be kind of a difficult show for me. Alright, and you'll find out why as we go on. As of this recording, it is February. We've got through January, we're into February, and the weather is still what it is. It still stinks. But we're not in the single digits anymore. Right now we're in double digits. We're up, according to what my phone app says for the weather, it says it's 24 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Whereas it's been like 7 degrees around this time that I've recorded. Generally. So, we're getting there. The cats are playing on the stairs there. They're going nuts. I just finished a game stream. I have another video to do. I've got a lot of things going on. And I'm in a bit of a mood. I am in a bit of a mood. It's a tough episode because I don't get into the topics of loss too often. Every so often, I get into, well, we lost a pet, or, I lost a family member, or something like that, and we gotta talk about these things, because these things, they're important to talk through, they're important to get through, because being as we are, everything ends. And that's kind of a, I know people don't like to hear that, and I don't want to make this a depressing episode. I don't want you to start thinking about your own mortality in a negative way. But everything ends. We lose pets, we lose family, we lose people. And recently, I lost somebody. And it's a weird position for me to be in, because it wasn't a family member, and it wasn't somebody, like, we didn't talk every single day. I'm gonna get into it. I'm getting ahead of myself. A friend of mine from high school, which was a number of years ago. I graduated in the class of 2001. So it's been, 25 years since I was last in high school. A friend of mine from high school recently lost a struggle with a rare form of cancer. And she passed on a few days ago. It's been 4 or 5 days, give or take, maybe. I don't remember the exact day that it happened, and the exact details are not as important as the fact that it happened. But her name was Surovick. And I want to talk about her for a few minutes, for a little while, because I have some pretty good memories of Surovick. Now, this was not a romantic I've never been romantic with Kara in the past. I don't want people to start thinking that it was somebody that I had a past relationship like that with. We were friends. And because, and this is just a sort of an off-topic thing, but men and women who are friends with each other don't always have to be romantic with each other, and there doesn't have to be a romantic interest with each other. There's a weird thing with society where the optics are that men are only friends with women because they're trying to get with them and they're trying to hook up with them and things. And, you know, men and women, we're compatible. That's how things work. Biologically, men chase women and women go with men, you know. And, you know, I'm not trying to look down on LGBT whatever. I'm just saying biologically that's been historical. That's just how things work. And it's not unheard of for people to be friends and then be romantic partners and then fall out of that and then either go back to being friends or never talk to each other again. But that wasn't the case with me and Kara. I knew Kara in school. She was, I believe, a grade lower than me. I don't think she was more than one grade lower than me. We were close in age. It was within like a couple of years. So, but we knew each other primarily through the marching band. We were both in the marching band. She was in the color guard, and you know, I was in the winds, and I did what I did, and she did what she did, and we knew each other through there. And when you're in a close-knit kind of group like marching band, it's not like there's like several hundred people. As far as our school was very small, so the marching band was relatively small. And so everybody knew everybody. It doesn't mean that everybody was friends with everybody, but everybody knew everybody. Like, I knew everybody who was in the marching band, and everybody knew that I was in the marching band. We were a close-knit kind of group. And so I knew Kara through that. And we connected through music. We had similar music tastes, and because I had discovered MP3s and music downloads and the wide world of peer-to-peer sharing and things of that nature, I had access to a lot more variety of music and files than some other people in my class had. So I was fond of making mix CDs. Like back in the day, it was mixtapes where you would tape songs off the radio or whatever on cassette tape. But when I was growing up, CDs were the big deal, and you could burn CDs, and I would make mixes of alternative and metal and different things of that nature. And so Kara and a friend of hers that I don't want to put on the spot, she knows who she is. The two of them were pretty much inseparable at the time in high school. And but they found out that I was into some music that they liked, and like, oh yeah, can you get us some of that? And I said, yeah. And I gave them mix CDs. And Kara said on more than one occasion that one of the reasons that she had good taste, in her opinion, in music was because of me. And I feel really gratified about that. It's something that maybe not a lot of people know, and I don't want to use that as a status symbol. I don't want to be like, now that she's gone, be like, oh yeah, I was so much more important to her life than you think, because that's not the case. We're going to get into our friendship over the years from here. But that's one of the places where it started. We bonded over music, and I hooked them up with music, and we would talk occasionally when we saw each other. We would hang out, not very often. We wouldn't go to each other's houses. It wasn't one of those things where we would just, where we were super close. We weren't best friends, that kind of thing. But we were friends, and we had a lot to talk about, and we got along. And I appreciated her, and I think she appreciated me, and that's, what more can you ask for from a friend in school? So I have a memory, I have a story, and I don't know how many people know this. It's an important story to me. It set the tone for something that has become a central part of my life. And Carol was involved, and maybe not a lot of people know why. And it wasn't like something where she was always part of the mix, but it began something for me. Sometime during my high school career, I don't know when it was, if it was senior year or junior year, I don't remember for sure, but we were doing well. We were a competition band. We would go to different places and we would compete. We would play our songs and things. We wouldn't just play songs at the football games just to get the football fans riled up and like, yeah, there's some songs for the football people. We just got a touchdown. Well, I mean, we did that, but we were a competition band. We had themes. Like, one theme one year was Under the Sea, so it was all like, we did different nautical things, and we actually played the song Under the Sea from Little Mermaid. And another was it was like a romance story, a tragic romance, and it had some of the most difficult music I've ever played on an instrument before. But we would go to certain locations, and we would play our music and move around on the field in our formations against other bands from other high schools across the area. You would score points for how well you hit your marks and did your music and did things, and you would win trophies and you would win awards depending on how well you did against everybody else. And so I think we won some kind of a competition. I don't know if it was a championship or something. I think we won something. And so Kara's family, who was involved with the marching band, she had a sister who was involved, and I think she had a brother who was involved. I don't remember for sure. But they were like, yeah, we're going to have a party at our house for the marching band. So all the marching band people come to our house for this party to celebrate. And there was a foreign exchange student who was in my graduating class, but who was staying with the Surovicks. So even though she was, a grade under me, this guy was in the same grade as me. His name was Fabian. He was from Germany. He was a German foreign exchange student. And we had gotten to be friends. And so I went over. It was a big part. Like, everybody was there. The entire marching band was there, plus associated different people who were, like, guests and things. Like, you could bring extra people as long as they weren't going to make a big deal out of everything and make a mess. And we went over to her house, and there was a lot of people there. It was a big party. And I remember a couple of things. One of the things I remember is Fabian asking me if I wanted an NA beer, which at the time I didn't know what that meant. I just heard him offering me a beer, and I'm like, you're a high school student like me. You can't be offering me a beer. But no, I can't drink yet. I'm underage. And then he explained to me that it's an NA beer. It's non-alcoholic. Because in Germany, the rules for beer and things are different. And at his age, he could drink beer in Germany. But he can't here in America. So because he couldn't, but because he still liked beer, he bought non-alcoholic beer. And so he was asking me if I wanted one. I was like, oh, okay. And once I figured it out, I was like, all right. So I had a non-alcoholic beer with the foreign exchange student at Kara Surovick's house party for the marching band. So that's a big, interesting memory to me. And Fabian would sometimes, like, I remember playing D&D with Fabian and a few other people at my house around those years, and so I knew him pretty well. But the other big memory from there, which is a big one because this sets the tone for things that happened later in life. If you remember, a few shows ago, when I was talking about music and how I got involved with music, separately, not from like school stuff, but from from producing music of my own. What I used to produce music at the beginning was it was classified as a game for the PlayStation 1. It was called the MTV Music Generator. And it was supposed to be a party game where you could link up online multiple PlayStations and like jam together and things like that. And I never did that. But I would make songs in the music generator. And later I would find the PC copy, which was exactly like the original, but it was meant for Windows. And I would be able to make MP3s. And that started my music career. But here's a little known thing that people might not know about. My first live performance of original music that I had written with the music generator was in Kara Surovick's basement at this party. I had brought over the disc. I don't know if I brought my PlayStation or if she had one. And I tried to tell people, I got people involved that said, hey, spread the word, I'm going to perform at this party. And she got a bunch of people to come down to the basement. It was a finished basement. It had carpet. It was comfortable. It had couches. It wasn't like, just some basement. And we hooked up the PlayStation to the TV, and I put the disc in, and I loaded up my memory cards, because that's how you saved your data. And I loaded up my songs, and I didn't even have a microphone, because you couldn't do that with the technology at the time. You didn't have a microphone to hook up to the PlayStation. But I loaded up my songs, and I sang some songs that I had written, plus a couple of covers. I did a couple of them. I think I did Marilyn Manson. I did like Sweet Dreams, which is a cover of a cover, I know. But I did my very first show of original music, before I even had the name, before the Spider in the Hall band name had even come about, I think it was before I'd even come up with all of that. My first live performance as a solo artist was in Kara Surovick's basement at a marching band party in high school. And the fact that she would be into it, like that she would make sure people were down there to see it, and I wasn't loud enough. Like, I was nervous. I'd never done anything like this before, so my voice was quiet, and people complained that they couldn't hear the vocals, and I did my best. And it wasn't, it wasn't a great thing, but it was a big stepping stone for me. It was a huge step forward in me creating music. And she believed in me enough in high school to get people to go down there to listen, to see what I could do. And I mean, I was just sitting on the floor singing. I wasn't like getting up and moving and dancing and But for some kid in school, you can't. It was such a big deal for me. And it set the tone for everything that would come after. I kept making music. I didn't put out my first album until many years later, when I lived in Akron, Ohio. But the fact remains that Kara Surovick gave me the push. She gave me the confidence to play a set of music in her basement at this marching band house party. And I am forever grateful. I'm getting a little bit teary-eyed right now about it, because it means a lot to me, and it meant a lot to me at the time, and it still means a lot to me to this day. It's something that I'm never going to forget about my history, and she gave me that opportunity. And we were what, like, I don't know, I was 15, 16, and she would have been 13, 14, maybe 15, I don't know. So maybe it didn't seem like such a big deal at the time, but it was. And over the years, we would talk every so often. We wouldn't, because I moved out far, far west to central Ohio, and she was in Pennsylvania. And so it's not like we hung out on any sort of regular basis after I moved out. And I was in a series of relationships that brought me up and brought me low and brought me sideways and various things, But we would still talk occasionally via the internet, because the internet messengers were big. Like, we had Yahoo Messenger and AOL and email and all that kind of stuff, and eventually Facebook Messenger. And we would still talk occasionally. Usually a few years would go by, and then one of us would reach out and talk to the other, and then we'd get into a conversation, and we'd keep it up for it. It wasn't one of those things where we were just constantly every single day, or even every single week, communicating with each other, but we would still reconnect. And I have a few friends. That I consider some of my best friends, that we don't talk every day. We don't talk every week. We don't talk every month. We might not even talk every year. But we will always find a way to reconnect and talk to each other, and as if there's been no time passed, and we'll just catch up and we'll reconnect. And Kara was one of those people. And I still have messages from her in my Facebook Messenger. I'm going to pull them up now, because this is another set of important stuff. When the last Tool album came out in 2019, it was Fear Inoculum, and I managed to get it, and I sent her a copy of the album, and it was funny because she was like, "Can I?" Because I wasn't supposed to have it yet. I managed to get things early, and I don't want the feds to start like investigating me for piracy, because I've paid for everything. Regardless of anything I get early, I always pay for everything eventually. So don't think that you're going to come after me for illegal downloads. But she asked me if she could send it to her boyfriend at the time, who was working out of town, and he was a huge Tool fan. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. You go ahead and do that. And she happened to mention that he had a copy of a CD, but apparently he'd been married in the past and he got divorced and he lost all of everything he had. It was included in his CD collection. And he had a copy of Opiate, which was Tool's first official release. It wasn't the first release they've ever put out because they put out some demo stuff ahead of time, but Opiate was their first album that they put out officially on a record label. And there was a version that had certain pictures in the booklet and on the case that weren't there later. Like, they re-released it and they took them out because they were controversial or something like that. And she mentioned that, and I said, "Oh yeah, no, that's interesting." And she asked me, "Hey, if you ever see that," because my guy is a big Tool fan, can you give us like a heads up? Can you let us know? Because I'd like to get him a copy. Because she was trying to get him a copy for like his birthday or for an anniversary or something of that nature. So it turns out that I said, "Well, hold on, let me take a look at my own personal CD collection." Because I had a copy. I had an exact copy of that CD in my personal collection. I'd gotten it from somewhere, from a used CD shop or something like that, or from eBay or whatever. I don't remember where I'd got it, but it was the exact version that she wanted for her dude. And I said, "You know what? If you pass me $5 for shipping, I'll send it to you. You don't got to pay for anything else. Just cover the shipping because I don't have a lot of money, and I'll send it to you." And I did. And the next time we talked, because we would talk about the upcoming Tool tour that was coming through at the same, and the Manson tour that was coming through at the time too. But the last time we talked, well, we talked a couple of times since then. We talked in 2022, about the various virus strains that were going around at the time. She was asking me, because I'd had it multiple times at the time, and I was like, it's old hat. Each one is a little different, but it's all the same thing. And so she was curious because she was sick, and she was like, "What is it like? Is this what you went through?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so we commiserated on the virus and various things. And then the last time we talked was in 2024. She had seen Marilyn Manson. She had gotten the entire set on video, and she offered it to me. And I said, "Yeah, that's great," because I'd seen him not long ago locally, and it wasn't that great. And we talk about things like that, how, about things change over time. And so that was the last time I talked to her, in August of 2024, in my Facebook messages. And then last year I found out that she was in the hospital with a rare aggressive form of cancer. And I saw that there was a GoFundMe up to help pay for her medical bills. And I wanted to give a lot, so I held off, thinking that, eventually the next paycheck I get, I'll be able to drop a lot, because I don't want to just give $10. I don't want to give $20. I want to give a lot. I want to give like $100. And so I kept waiting, and it kept being one of those things where I just didn't have that much. And this part really hurts, because the next thing I knew, I saw online that she was gone. That that the cancer had done what it did, and I did not get the chance to contribute to try to help. And it probably wouldn't have made a difference if it was. No amount of money is going to cure something if that's what's going to happen. But I still feel pretty bad. I still feel like I shouldn't have waited. I should have done something, regardless of logically whether it was going to make any difference or not. You know. And now she's gone. So, and you would think, because of how much of the time that goes between when we would talk, that it wouldn't feel the way that it does. But it hurts a lot. She was one of my favorite people. And I like to think that maybe we had some kind of, not like a connection above anybody else, because again, we didn't hang out on a regular basis. We talked through Messenger over the years, but we had that shared enjoyment of certain kinds of music and things like that, and the fact that she could reach out to me about things like that, that she was excited about, and that I could reach out to her about things that I was excited about. I feel like it meant something. And it hurts that she's gone. It hurts that she's not going to be around to talk about that kind of stuff anymore. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it, because and some people who tune into this thinking, well, how did you even know her? Like, they're gonna maybe wonder whether I'm overselling the friendship that we had, but I feel like maybe there was more to it than people knew about. It was something special just for us. And I'm not saying that in any sort of, romantic kind of way, because just because you're friends with somebody doesn't mean that there has to be some kind of romance involved. I'm just, we connected on different levels, and now that connection isn't there, and it's painful. It is painful. And you can probably hear me sniffling a little bit because I'm trying to hold back. I don't want to I don't want to go off on a tearful tirade on the show. But I am feeling it. I am feeling it. So I hope that she's found some kind of peace. I'm not a religious person. I do believe that energy continues, and our consciousness is part of that energy, and I feel like she's gone on to something else. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is, but I hope it's treating her better than it did at the end of the physical existence that she had here. So So yeah, there's that. I'm gonna try to move on to a couple of other topics because otherwise we're just gonna end the show and just on a down note and but there's other things that happen. So and I don't want to make this like, oh well, she's gone, whoop de doo. I'm not gonna. That's not the impression I want people to get. We're gonna talk about some other things just to kind of fill out the episode a little bit. But this is mostly an episode about Kara. So I'm gonna have a drink in her honor right here. So, and I hope at some point our energies meet again in the far future. I don't know how. I don't know how. I'm not. Again, I'm not a religious person, and I don't know scientifically how that would work out. But maybe sometime in the far future, when she's gone and I'm gone and everybody's gone, things will converge and we'll meet up again in some other form of life. I don't know. But on to other things. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's switch gears. We're going to talk about some WWE things for a minute or two, because that's inane and not at all emotional. So that should get my mind switched off a little bit. The Royal Rumble was this past Saturday, as of this recording. And I didn't hold out a lot of hope for it because it was in Saudi Arabia. And you folks know my thoughts about that. Saudi Arabia is a rich country. They're tossing money all over the place, but they're also a huge human rights abuser. So I didn't expect this to be... I didn't expect it to be as good as it ended up being, because it ended up being pretty good. There's a couple of funny things about it that I want to bring up. In Saudi Arabia, they built, over the course of a month, they built a brand new stadium that was initially, like, Royal Rumble was the first event they were going to hold there, and then now they're going to hold other sporting things there, and concerts and whatnot. But they built a new stadium from the ground up. And what's interesting is that it was not filled completely with people. It wasn't sold out. They said somewhere that it had like 20,000 plus people that had attended. But I don't know what the capacity of the stadium was supposed to be. But the camera, like, sweeping over the crowd, there was a lot of empty seats. There was a lot of empty seats. And I think that there's a combination of things involved with that. One was probably because without it being completely finished, I don't know if tickets were like they had as many tickets available for people to get initially, and they thought maybe people would buy more once it was actually done, and they didn't. Or I think it was probably expensive because it's a new stadium, it's a new location, and tourism is what it is, and they charge whatever they charge for tourism. And I think another part of it is that maybe people didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia for the Royal Rumble. So the stadium was not as full as it could have been. That being said, it was a pretty solid Royal Rumble. Now, as I say that, there's a couple of caveats to that. Usually in the Royal Rumble these days, you kind of expect there to be surprise people to show up, like old veterans that haven't been there for a while, or people coming back from injury, or even if there's other promotions that they have partnerships with, they would show up and like, oh yeah, it's a surprise entry. And there were very few of those. There was next to none. There was only a couple of points where I was kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting. That's a surprise. And other than that, there was almost. To be fair, a lot of times they tend to use that for humorous purposes. Like they'll have comedy people show up to be in the Royal Rumble just because they have to fill up spaces. So I didn't miss that. I didn't miss the comedy people not being involved, but there were a lot of people that I expected to be involved that were not. So that was interesting. There were absolutely no surprises in the ladies' Royal Rumble because there's always a men's and a women's now. Everybody's got to be equal. They got to get there. And as per usual with the women's Royal Rumble, because it's in Saudi Arabia, every single female wrestler had to be covered from the neck down to the feet, with the only skin showing being on their face and on their hands. As I always say, I don't watch wrestling to see breasts and bare asses and things of that nature. That's not what I watch it for. And the various ladies' costumes, they have a variety of things. Some are more covered than others. But the irritating part of this is, it's not that I don't get to see the ladies' breasts and asses, because that's a sexist comment, of course. And that's not why I watch them. The part that irritates me is that the ladies have to be completely covered head to toe in these bodysuits, which have to be in Saudi Arabia. It's in the desert. It's got to be warm. It's got to be sweaty. It's got to be uncomfortable. Doing these physical things with up to 30 people in a Royal Rumble at a time. Okay? Versus the men's Royal Rumble, where they're in shorts, shirtless, knee pads, elbow pads. That's about it. The men don't have any sort of restrictions. They can be as free as they want. And the ladies cannot. And it's not because I'm a straight male and I enjoy looking at women. It's because Saudi Arabia can't have the ladies showing anything because of their archaic sexual restrictions. I've talked about this many times before. I don't want to get into it too deeply because you've all heard it and you're probably tired of me talking about it. But human rights is still a very lacking issue in Saudi Arabia. However, despite that, this ladies' Royal Rumble was probably one of the better ones from the last few years. It was better than some of the ones in the United States from the past few years. And that's because the women involved seemed to have really put in their practice. They knew their spots. They knew what to do, when to do it. And everything seemed to go pretty smoothly. There weren't a lot of obvious mistakes, which can happen in a Royal Rumble because you get so many people involved. People will forget, oh, what move am I supposed to do next against these people, because there's like 5, 6 people here all at once, and then there's 9 people here at once, or whatever. But it was pretty good. Despite the fact that I'm sure they were uncomfortable and overly warm, I think they put in the effort, and I think they did well. I liked it. There were no surprises in the ladies' Royal Rumble. There was nobody from any other promotions. There was nobody coming back from old injury. They had their various feuds with the various people that worked their way through, but there was no surprises. It was just a start to finish Royal Rumble match with the women, and it was done well. And Liv Morgan is the winner of the 2026 Women's Royal Rumble. So, Then we have a couple matches in between. We have Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre for the championship, which was whatever. I don't remember a lot about it. I think they had a good match. I mean, it was what it was. But it was okay. But then they had the men's Royal Rumble, and this one, again, they didn't have any real surprise people showing up, and they had a distinct lack of people that you would think would be there. And I'll get to that in a minute, but it started off with Obafemi. They're pushing him from NXT real big. He's a big, tough guy. He's going to be the next Brock Lesnar. The second entrant was supposed to be Braun Breaker, but he didn't even get in. He got attacked by a masked figure who could have been Seth Rollins, but we don't know. He got attacked, beat up, rolled into the ring just enough for Obafemi to throw him over the top, which is how you eliminate people from the Rumble, and that was it. He had no time in the Rumble at all, which was really fascinating. And so I wonder if maybe he's got some sort of minor injury that doesn't prevent him from getting up and walking around. But they don't want to jeopardize his health, so they had to come up with ways to, keep him out of these things. He was suspended the week before for attacking the general manager, and he couldn't be any matches and whatnot. And, I don't know, but it was an interesting swerve. It was an interesting twist that I didn't see coming. And then Obafemi ended up eliminating 12, 13 people, going on a bit of a rampage because he's a big, strong guy. But they had all of the typical people show up across the various WWE promotions. They did not have a single person from TNA, which they had the year before, because TNA and WWE have a partnership, so they trade people back and forth occasionally. But they had no TNA wrestlers at all. Joe Hendry didn't show up. He would be the most obvious one. None of the other people that they've had on their various shows from TNA have showed up. They had a couple of people from AAA, which is the Mexican promotion for the Luchadors. They had Mr. Iguana and La Parca, who were entertaining. And the only real surprise that they had was when Chad Gable showed up as the original El Grande Americano against Ludwig Kaiser's El Grande Americano. And they were like, oh, who are you? Oh, who are you? I'm supposed to be a Americano. I'm supposed to be Americano. And they had a little tiff back and forth, which was funny. And if you don't watch wrestling, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. And that's fair. That's okay. That's okay. If you do, then you're going to know, and you'll be like, yeah, The only other surprise was when Powerhouse Hobbs showed up, and he doesn't have his same name. He's somebody that was in AEW. His contract ran out, and he decided to sign with WWE. And they put his original name, Powerhouse Hobbs, up on the screen, and I thought for sure, they're going to let him keep his own name, and then they switched it to Royce Keys. It's not as impressive a name, but I've found out through the grapevine that apparently his son's name is Royce. So I think it was a bit of a tribute. And he did okay in the match. He's obviously not going to be big right off the bat, but he showed up and he did some things, and that was cool. So the winner of the men's Royal Rumble ended up being Roman Reigns, which was kind of telegraphed because for months they've been showing a certain group of people. They've been showing CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes, and maybe somebody else in their promotional stuff for WrestleMania to show that these are the people who are going to be there. And when the last few people showed up in the Rumble after everybody else had been shown out, the only person who was on that promotional material out of the 4 people left in the ring was Roman Reigns. So it was pretty obvious he was going to be the winner because he's already on the promo material for WrestleMania. And then, of course, on the following night on Raw, he's going to be against CM Punk for the heavyweight title for WrestleMania. So nothing surprising. There was very few surprises this year, which is interesting. The matches were good. I will say that the matches were good. They were not as sloppy as they have been in the last couple of years. But they were somehow, while they were good, they were solid matches. They just didn't have anything surprising, which is what you expect from a Royal Rumble match, which was very interesting. So I'm on the fence about it. I liked it. I did like this year's Royal Rumble. I did enjoy it. Despite the fact that I'm kind of like, that's weird. Why wouldn't they do this? Or why wouldn't they do that? So there's that happened. We're getting towards the end of the show now. And there's only a couple things left that I want to mention. One of which is, of course, I do have a new Spider in the Hall album in the works. I have finished the instrumental parts of the album, and I have probably 4 tracks that I have lyrics written for but not recorded. The album will come out sometime this year. I do not have a definite date because it all depends on how soon I can actually write and record these lyrics. But it is called Kingmaker. And there are various promos available on my YouTube to listen to, some shorts, so you can get an idea of what the album is going to be like. It is the most straightforward, heavy, just to-the-point album I've ever done, I think, based on the lyrics that I have so far and the music that I've created. And I'm going to be doing a live stream of the instrumental tracks sometime in the near future, probably on Twitch, but then that will be relocated to YouTube after it's concluded, so you can watch it after the fact. I'll probably drop some facts about the album itself and about the tracks involved and about the lyrics and where my headspace was at for all of it. I don't know how soon that'll happen. It probably will be in the next month or 2, depending. So you have that to look forward to. I don't know if I'm going to be doing any live shows to promote it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at the Hootenanny in Pennsylvania later this year. It hasn't been 100% confirmed yet. And I have to have the songs done, of course. But we'll see how it goes. I don't want to get anybody excited they'll be able to see me live because I don't do live shows too often anymore. It's physically difficult. And it's hard to find the time, to be fair, but we'll see how that's going to go. The last thing that I want to do before the show is over, and you may notice I'm going to try to actually turn off the advertisements for this show, so it'll be commercial free, which means I will not get any sort of pay for this specific episode. One is because I want to honor Kara's memory, and I don't want anything breaking up the talk that I had about the memories I had with her. And the other is because I'm going to be playing a song. instead of my closing theme that I usually play, I found through my old music archives, I went through a bunch of my oldest stuff from way back in almost the PlayStation days of old tracks that I'd made. And I found a copy of a cover song that I did. It's just me and my piano. Not even a synthesizer, an actual piano. And it's the song Hurt by Nine Inch Nails. And rather than my usual end theme, I would like to play this recording that I made in memory of Kara Surovick. I recorded this in 2009. The quality is not great. It's 128 kilobytes per second for people who understand that language. I played the piano by hand. I sang to it, and I even there's a couple spots where I made a mistake on the piano, and I went bloop, and I left it in at the time because I was like, well, that's just how it is. It's authentic. It's a heartfelt song, and I just want to dedicate it to the memory of my friend Kara Surovick. And I hope one day, however energy works scientifically, however the things work in the metaphysical realm, that we somehow get to talk again. I don't know. But that's it. That's all I've got. I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to play it for you. And that's another reason why there won't be any advertisements, because it's a cover song and I don't have the rights to license it, and so I don't have the copyright stuff for it, and that's okay. I made the decision to play it anyway because it's for Kara. So that's all I've got. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.
Hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, the old familiar sting, try to kill it all away, but I remember everything. myself. I would find